This is the third lecture in the Programming and Operations unit, and today we're going to be looking mostly at programming. Now, the most important activity for any broadcast medium is that they're selling audiences. Well, who are they selling audiences to? That seems like a bizarre thing to say. They're selling audiences to the advertiser. They're trying to accumulate stations, cable systems, networks are trying to attract as big of an audience as possible so that they can have good ratings for their programs and charge top dollar for their ad space, their ad time. Whether a media company is making use of an advertising-based, subscription-based, or a pay-per-play-based kind of service, the important common denominator in all of this is that they need to attract audiences. They need to attract them with good, compelling content. And the more audience you attract, remember, the more you can charge for your ad time. So in this sense, viewers and ratings points are kind of treated as commodities to be sold. Now, we talked a little bit about niche programming in the earlier lecture. And remember, niche services have kind of come into vogue in recent years as opposed to just shotgunning out to a mass audience. Advertisers, programmers are looking for target demographics that they know or they think they know is going to buy their product. We're going to talk a little bit about audience targeting. And again, that's when advertisers know that there are particular individuals or groups of individuals who are going to buy their product, and they're specifically tailoring their advertising or their programming to get that audience. One important fact of programming, any good programming, is that it must be repeatable. Many TV stations and cable networks depend on the fact that an audience is going to come back and watch a program over and over. And so when a product is presented to audiences for the first time, it's designated as a first run. And a repeat or a rerun, which we all know, we've seen, denotes program content that is presented to audiences repeatedly. Some of the initial high costs of productions can actually be recouped if a program can survive long enough and then be spun off for reruns several years later. A great example, of course, is the I Love Lucy show, which was one of the first TV shows to be recorded. It was recorded on a very expensive format, film, and here we are several decades later, still able to watch reruns of the I Love Lucy show. I myself don't really watch them, but they are still very profitable. Now, radio, on the other hand, depends on listeners enjoying their favorite songs, again, over and over. So that programming on radio especially is must be very repeatable. In the case of TV, some formats repeat better than others. For instance, reality shows typically don't do as good in reruns as sitcoms and dramas, crime shows, etc. So again, some formats do better than others in reruns. There is a certain art and science to scheduling programs to try to attract viewers. Now, what is sold is, in radio at least, is what is known as day parts. And I believe we actually have a gentleman in the class who's a DJ. So he would probably know quite a bit about this. Now, day parts are kind of split up. These are basically chunks of time throughout the day that radio can sell for advertising. And we have typically morning drive, midday, afternoon drive, and night. Now, in TV, we have our primetime audience is the largest audience with what is known as access time right before primetime. Access time typically is about 6 to 7, sometimes as late as 8, but usually not that late. And most revenue for the network affiliates comes between in the prime time and the access time. Again, in the DFW area at least, for the access time slot, this is where you're going to find a lot of your local news programming and maybe a syndicated show or two, like maybe Access Hollywood or sitcom reruns like The Simpsons. TV programmers and networks want to control what is known as audience flow as much as they can. Audience flow is the movement of viewers from one program to another. What they want to do is make sure you stay tuned to their channel as long as possible, then they can get better ratings, then they can make better dollars on charging higher advertising prices. Unfortunately, we don't always cooperate as viewers. We're very finicky. We're armed to the teeth with our remote controls. We have our time-shifting devices like our DVRs, and so audience flow is a real challenge for programmers and networks to try to control.